Hello and welcome to the Stateside Soccer Show. My name is Jordan Wiegand, and with me is a guy who is banned from our press media day, Logan Stump. How are you today, Logan?
Yeah, it really is a shame. I shouldn't have written the awful things I had to say about you on Twitter, Jordan. Fan base, I do apologize for anything that might have been said that was offensive. All I wrote was that you want to pro and relegate. This promotion and relegation stuff this summer just has been or winter has just been.
It's because you're
Gosh,
already
right?
putting us at summer.
I
Jeez,
am. Yeah,
slow time down a bit. I don't
right.
want to turn 32 yet.
No, but this thing has caused problems, Jordan. This thing is just absolutely shaking the MLS and American world. So.
Yeah. Yeah, well, if you're not knowing what we're referring to there, the athletic reporters, Jeff Ruder and Pablo Maurer, were actually banned from the Inter Miami Media Day due to a Q&A that they completed with Phil Neville, where Phil Neville said he would like pro-rel and kind of criticized the league for not having playoffs ready, which are understandable to be upset about. And it wasn't even them that said it, it was the coach. So kind of odd to ban the media members.
Yeah, it's been going around Twitter too. Just the fact that they did get banned, and they're the Athletic. Like it's not like it's just Jordan and I going in to cover the team. Like this is a really big publication that's put out online. The Athletic is massive, so just the fact that there are, there are clubs, and we talked about this with Todd that there's clubs out there just. I mean, it seems like they're just seeking out people that go against what they believe in as a club, or like they disagree with things that they've done as a club. And some of these teams have gone a little sensitive on that side and said, well, you can't say that about us. So it really does seem like, that these clubs really do have an issue with anybody kind of going against what they've done, what they're doing as part of the off season, what they're doing as part of the season is concerned. So anything that you say against maybe this club or a kit or anything, like it sucks because like as a person covering the league, I should be able to speak honestly about what I see and what I observe, and that's what's made sports media so great. It's not just fluff pieces and all these things that are just so nice about all these teams, so that people get an understanding of what's actually going on.
Yeah, that's kind of an issue, right? Is that we are. It sets a bad precedent, and it depends on who did it. Was it Miami? Was it the league? It sounds like Miami. They've already been in trouble with things like the DPS and stuff. If I'm the league, I have to step in, right? I guess each club does have their own way to do that stuff, but it's also all right. Look, we're lucky to even be covered by the Athletic, right? We're lucky to even have like Pablo Maurer and Jeff Ruder covering this league, right? They do great work, and it looks bad to all the other reporters. Not, you and I have not yet been credentialed, but the fact that they are able to do that to the Athletic makes me worried. You know, for our chances, we've been railing on the playoff format getting revealed, and it's been revealed. So we're going to talk that before we jump in to our other predictions. Here's a nice little handy graphic I made for you. This is also reported by Pablo Maurer and Jeff Ruder as well. The playoff format: 18 teams will qualify. So we were right, 9 teams from each conference. The wild card round is the 8 and 9 seeds facing off in a one-game play-in. The first round is the 1 seed facing the wild card winner. The 2 versus the 7, the 3 versus the 6, the 4 versus the 5 in a best of 3 matchup. We were talking about the possibility of a best of 3 matchup, and this is the way I wanted it to be, where there's no draws. You must win both games to move on, 2 out of 3. The top seed is going to host games 1 and 3. And the conference semis and finals are one game playoffs with the higher seed hosting, just like they always were beforehand. I also got the dates for these, by the way. And it's got a little bit of a kink in it, so get ready for more weird playoff stuff. The wild card matchups are on the 25th and 26th, so you'd have one of those on each day. Round one, best of three, is going to stretch from the 28th of October. Happy birthday, my cousin Brandon, on that day, to November 12th. All right, that's a big chunk of time. Of course, there's a lot of games too, right? 2 to 3 games, at least 2 games for a 1 versus 8 or 9, a 2 versus 7, 3 versus 6, 4 versus 5. That's 4 games per conference, so 8 games times 2 for the possibility of 2 to 3 games for that. So you're looking at 16 to 24, if I did my math right, which I'm not great at, between that period. Then the conference semis and the conference finals are going to be played between November 25th and December 3rd. So we have a 2-week break in November. I'm assuming that's the November FIFA window, is my thoughts there. And then the final is played on December 9th. What are your thoughts, Logan, on the format, on any of the dates, anything that we just mentioned there?
First and foremost, I'd like to go after MLS by you can't be a serious league in the world just releasing your MLS format, your playoff format this late into the game. It just and Jim Curtin's talked about it at length. Phil Neville, I about to say Gary Neville. Gary Neville noticed it from England, no, but Phil Neville has talked about it. All the writers talk about it. Even the guys from Extra Time are like, "Yo, like, why did this take so long? What was the deal? Why is this something that, why are we letting 9 teams into the playoffs?" Like, there's a lot of things that, I think part of it's good, part of it's bad. Like, I do like the fact that, the 8th and 9th seeds will face off against each other. So it kind of eliminates that idea where you're letting more teams in. It's just one more game that'll be played. So the wild
it's the
card
play-in, pretty
yeah,
much. It's like the
yeah,
NBA play-in.
right. So it's really just letting in another team into the actual playoffs, in my opinion, just because the 8th and the 9th seed, they're probably not going to advance anyway. So it's just kind of that game that they're just going to place in here as a placeholder so that the one doesn't have to. I do like
No
that the
bye.
one, yeah, that the one's not going to get a bye. And that's actually probably good because there's been complaints in the past where the 1 seeds get bounced because they're not used to playing. And there's always been that
And now they
conversation.
have 3 games to
Right.
play before they move on. So that no
Right.
rust.
Yeah, so there's been that. I really enjoy that idea. But then there's the part where I don't really like the idea of having to watch the one play the 3 matches if it goes to that. Like, that doesn't seem like a lot of fun. So I don't know. I'm kind of torn in between that first round. But then after that, everything's pretty much normal. So I am interested to kind of see how these 3 games impact the playoffs going forward, because I can't imagine that these guys will be fresh. Once it hits that second or third game in this 3-game series or whatever it ends up being, if they have to play 3, I imagine that this is going to be taking a toll on a lot of players. And there's a reason why soccer is so spread out.
Well, they'll have the 2-week break too.
Yeah.
After
that's right.
now.
Yeah, that's right.
So again, I don't think that's a competitive reason. I think it's the FIFA window. So I don't know how that would work without the window.
Yeah.
That's my thoughts on it. So here's what I do like about it. I like that it's not what it was before, 5 points, right? Because then people are going to play for draws. I saw somebody say on our post about this that that all 3 of these games are going to finish goalless. I don't think that's a possibility, because it's obviously it's soccer. It's a possibility. What I'm saying though is I think the teams are going to go for it. You have to win. And if you're not good at penalties or whatever, you're going to have to win it in normal time and get move on and say, all right, we did it. Like we were able to win the 2 games we needed to win. I think this limits the possibilities of a 1 seed getting bounced. So you're replacing the bye with an easy 8 seed, hopefully, that you're able to win. You get 3 chances. If you lose that first game, you have chances to win 2 more before you're out of the playoffs. I think this is very forgiving for the top seeds, and a little harder for the bottom seeds. But I think that's ultimately good in the sense of it keeps the teams playing. They're not having this huge layoff due to a bye, and that they're also able to, they're facing an easier opponent, and they have 3 chances. They have 3 games to win 2. And if they don't at that point, that's their fault. Like, I'm sorry. If a 1 seed gets bounced out, I'm not going to hear anybody bitch about this playoff format, because if you lose the first game, go win the 2 others. You're going to host 2 games. If it comes to 3 games, you're hosting 2 of them. I don't want to hear it if you get bounced out by an 8 seed or a 9 seed, you know? There's no, like, you just weren't good then that year. You were maybe good at one point to finish first, but you weren't hot at the time when the playoffs started and you got bounced out. Like, at least last year, if a 1 got bounced out early, you're like, okay, it's a 1 game playoff, like, whatever. But man, you got to make sure that if you're a 1 seed, you beat the 8 and the 9, or else you are a laughing stock, I would say. Especially if the 9 seed's like Chicago. Sorry,
Whoa, there we go
sorry.
again. That's like the 6th episode in
Well,
a row.
I had to do it to fit that in. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I just I don't know. I like that there's going to be more games. I will say that. I think there's probably going to be games every other day, every day. Like it'll
Playoffs went
be
by
the way they
really
set it up.
fast, didn't it,
Right.
last year?
Yes. Well, that's the thing. Like if you're playing single elimination, they're usually played on the same day, Saturday, maybe a game Sunday, like all of them Saturday, one Sunday, like for prime time. And then it's like, I mean, within 2 or 3 weeks, man, we're looking at the finals, and we're looking at the conclusion of an MLS season that has been a marathon, right? Because it is a marathon. It's not a sprint, especially with all these new games coming in. I mean, Jordan, we're getting to the point now where we're February to December. Like that is massive. Like that is a huge calendar. And they're looking like there has been talks where they want to add a preseason tournament to make that I think better for Apple. I know there's been talks like could they have a preseason tournament that they could put on TV because people want to see their teams, and I know a lot of us would be on board with that just because we'd like to see kind of like a spring training where we have the opportunity to see some of our young guys play, some of our guys getting ready that are newcomers. So yeah, I mean it's getting to the point. I mean, I love it as a fan, but I know it'll be exhausting as a player.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the only good side, right, is that they take the month off for Leagues Cup, and some teams are going to get bounced out
That's true.
after 2
Yep.
games. So you're going to have some time to rest, I would think, right? Now, not if you're the team that wins it, not if you're the team that keeps on moving on, but if you're like Chicago, right, you're getting bounced out of that early and moving on.
Well, we don't have any Chicago fans, Jordan, so that's fine.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see what they think of the rest of the show. Okay, today they also had like a media day where they showed the Apple Studio that they're going to be doing the whip around show on, and it looks pretty nice. Let me see if I can find it real quick to like share on the share it for the video.
I believe if you go to Drake Hill's Twitter, Drake had a picture. I'm not sure if he was there or if he had reposted somebody that was there, but I know he was there. I think Pablo was actually there today too. But yeah, no, if you guys haven't seen it, they also did like a kind of like a little tease of what the pregame show is going to look like with MLS before the Orlando game, and it was beautiful. Oh, look at that! That looks so good.
Yeah,
That looks so good.
yeah, it does look good. It's you know what? This is a huge step up from the Fox Studio, which is like 3 chairs and a table with like people like working in the background. Like I don't know what the Fox one was. The Fox one was awful.
And
But
better.
here's like some, this was
Yeah,
Don Garber talking and
yeah.
stuff.
Way better than too the backdrop of like where migrant workers were killed in Qatar,
Yeah.
right?
Or
So
ESPN FC, which is
shoot,
like
yeah, I think it's
an
done over
awful
Zoom.
setup.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's good. And there, Don Garber did say that they are looking to announce the 30th team by the year's end, with Las Vegas and San Diego the front runners. Garber does say that MLS can go beyond 30, and he name checked Detroit, Phoenix, Sacramento, and Tampa. If they go back to Tampa, it would be just like Miami, where they add a club that was already dissolved previously at that city. I think you can. Soccer is a sport where the talent is not going to really dilute itself too much because you can go grab from everywhere else compared to like baseball or football where
Right.
the
Yep.
talent is coming from the college system or a high school system. So I think it's fine to go above 30 teams. NFL's at 32. I could totally see 32, 36, something like that in MLS, especially because we don't have a balanced schedule. There's no need for there to be one. You can still, I'm sure, divide a 34 game season into, where you're playing everybody in your conference twice and that's it. Something like that. So that's cool. I kind of hope San Diego gets it. I'm tired of Las Vegas getting all the special treatment now. Las Vegas is getting a team in every damn sport. I can't stand it.
Yeah, and San Diego's beautiful. I mean, just absolutely beautiful. I would
Nicer
imagine
than Las
Vegas.
Vegas.
Dude, I was gonna say it'd be up 100 degrees. It'd be like playing in Arizona during the summer. I couldn't imagine playing. It'd have to be indoor.
Yeah,
Like,
I'm
there's
sure
no
they'd have a
way.
dome. Yeah.
But yeah, I San Diego, and I've heard that San Diego is like one of the best cities as far as viewership when it comes to United States soccer. So I think that's a match made in heaven. I know Sacramento keeps getting shoved off, but I think San Diego is prime for the 30th team. I think that'd be interesting. I think Indianapolis would too. If Indy 11 is going to build that stadium they built, it's going to be $1 billion or something crazy. I think Indy deserves a good look because I think it's a hub for soccer as well.
Let me throw out a wild idea here. Baltimore. Let me throw that one out for you.
Is that a city?
Yeah, it is. You wouldn't know it because they don't have a damn team, but in any league, in any league. I mean,
Jordan, you can move to Orlando. Like, you've lived here before.
no, too hot.
Buy some purple stuff.
Apple, what I said? Apple re-ups the Adidas deal. Sorry, MLS re-ups their Adidas deal. It includes MLS Next and MLS Next Pro. And the CNBC interview said it was through 2030 for $830 million, by the way. But and that's something that Paul Tenorio retweeted. A lot of other places said an indeterminate amount of time and an indeterminate amount of money. So I'm going to just go off the figures we got there. And if it's through 2030, that's 7 more years for $830 million. That's pretty darn good. And MLS is starting to maybe roll in the money a bit now.
Can I just say too that like with Adidas, I think our Adidas, their spin on the jerseys this year. I'm actually glad they did this. Like while we don't
That's
like
why
some,
they did it.
yeah,
I'm sure.
right.
Like
Like
to get their deal.
yes, like while we don't like some Jordan, there are ones that I think will personally become some of my favorite kits that they ever do for MLS, just because they took a chance. They got a little wild, and usually, from everything I had heard, because I've not covered the league long enough to remember much of the template kits, but they said that the white template kits were just they were awful from Adidas. It was just like, or maybe it was it Adidas or Nike that was doing
It was
it before?
Adidas.
It was Adidas. Okay.
Adidas has been it the whole
Yeah.
time, I think.
Okay, but they said that those were just so. Ugh.
If I'm not mistaken. Yeah, I think Adidas did it the whole time. I'll have to double check that. Certainly since I've been paying attention in 2007. It's been Adidas at least. That's 11 years in MLS. Oh my God, I'm getting old. This league is so big now. Like it's crazy to think that even like when I was looking at, when we were doing our previews and I'm looking at the RSL stuff and we got to the point where there's 6 teams in the Western Conference. And I was like, I remember this though. Like that's crazy. And now we're at 15 and 14 in each conference. Wow. That's all the catch-up news that we have to give you before we do our previews. So, Logan, how do we want to start off the previews?
Let's talk Chicago Fire. No, I'm kidding.
We will later.
All right. No, I think how I envision this going, Jordan, we kind of go through each team, brush up against each team, and then kind of give our last final, like, here we go. We're heading into the season, and we're going to be wrong about 99% of this stuff. But I think it'd be more fun to kind of go through the headlines first, kind of talk about some of the things that we're concerned about, big questions that we have, things that we want to see from each of the teams, kind of our final expectations kind of thing. Maybe some final thoughts on why we think that these teams are going to kind of fall where they do, but try to avoid as much of the spoilers as we can. So let's just do it that way. We'll start with Atlanta United. Jordan, the first headline that I have here, or first question mark. So we'll do headline or question for each of the teams. So the Atlanta headline is a headline, and it says, "This is the Lager way." Yes, as in this is the way. For The Mandalorian getting ready to drop, and we're not getting sponsored by Disney or The Mandalorian, but March 1st over on Disney Plus, you can watch The Mandalorian. But yeah, Jordan, Lager way. This is the Lager way is what the headline is going to be, and I'll kind of pass it to you, Jordan. How big is this signing? I know you've harped on it a ton, but just kind of give us one last thought on what you really think about this signing.
If you're just listening to this one and you skipped the Atlanta episode, I went back and looked at how quickly he was able to get RSL turned around and how quick he was able to get Sounders turned around. He won MLS Cup for both those teams within 2 years of being in charge. So for me, this is a huge signing. This is something that is uh, the biggest front office move since Lagerwey went to Seattle. And that's saying something, right? I mean, we haven't had too many internal, I feel, moves. I guess we did have Claudio Reyna. That's kind of dampened a bit due to him resigning and the U.S. men's national team stuff with his son. But he was another one that was at NYCFC and built like a good team, and then went to Austin when they came in. But other than that, we don't get too many of these like in league moves for GMs. Ernie Stewart, when he left the Union, went to the U.S. men's national team, and that's what caused Ernst Tanner to come in. And actually, that really changed that's kind of like the biggest front office move since Lagerwey, right? Is the Ernst Tanner thing. But if I'm talking about interleague moves for this stuff, that's the biggest thing. And he knows this league. He knows what's needed to win. He's gotten both of those clubs, by the way, to CONCACAF Champions League finals too. So he's not just competing domestically, he's competing internationally. And that is just something I really admire about Garth Lagerwey. So just not much more to say for it other than that's huge. It may not be smooth sailing this year, but I think by next year things will be looking a lot better for the club.
A new chapter begins without Joseph Martinez, the Godfather, the one that has kind of built that house there in Orlando. Yeah, he has kind of built his house in Orlando as well. That's why I say it. But no, he's just been a figurehead for that club and franchise for so long, Jordan. And now they've moved on. Giacomakis comes from Greece, and actually he was playing in Scotland, but the Greek striker comes in. I think that's a big signing. And with Lagerwey, I think you're going to kind of see more of those really good signings. I think that this club's got some chances now, especially with 9 playoff spots. I think this team's got a pretty good chance of making that push. And what Garth Lagerwey does in the summer will be interesting. They're one of the teams that can. 28 out of the 29 teams can make transfers in the summer. But I really do. I love this Lagerwey signing, Jordan. It feels like the Theo Epstein kind of thing where he's going to come in. He's going to get a lot of money. He's going to get that blank check. Yes, the pun intended, but he's going to get that blank check. And Arthur's going to sign off on a lot of these signings where I think this club is going to become one of those, premier clubs in MLS and in the world. Like, I think you're going to recognize them just like you would with the Galaxy, just like you would with LAFC. I think that this club's got the market to be able to do that. And I think Garth Lagerwey is the way. So I'm excited. I'm really excited to see what they do in Atlanta. I think this year will be tough, but I think with growing pains, I think they'll get a lot of good players into Atlanta here soon. All right, next one up, Austin FC. Are they legit MLS contenders in 2023, Jordan?
I would say yes. I think adding the forwards that they did up top, adding somebody like Zardes or Will Bruin, I think is a great move for them to help get some goals, which they need, I think, more of, even though they scored a lot last year. But, after failing on some of these international signings that come over, right? Cecilio Dominguez, which was like the first DP signing, right? And then Thomas Pochettino, which was another huge signing that has failed. It's time for them to be like, you know what, let's bring in people in the league. And they've did that this offseason. I really like those moves. And I think that'll help this team be actual competitive in the in MLS Cup. But what else it is, it's not just an MLS Cup thing. They're adding depth, which is they need depth because they're in the Champions League, let's not forget. Every club's in the Leagues Cup, let's not forget. So they have a lot of fronts that they're able to compete on. And but yeah, I think that they're competitive for MLS Cup, but I would also say that they are competitive on multiple fronts of trophies. I wouldn't be shocked if they end up with some sort of silverware in their young trophy cabinet.
My cats were breaking out of hell to come tell me that Austin FC is going to be a contender. No, they. So I, like you said, the Jazzy's artist. First of all, congratulations, Diego Fagundes. I think the third child on the way. That was a really cool reveal that Austin did last night with the pink lights. Fantastic.
They also just signed him to a longer deal for
I saw that.
Fagundes.
Yeah, and Peter Vermees, which we'll get to. Not for Austin, obviously, but that'd been a big signing. No, but yeah, man, I really like this team a lot. Deep. I mean, really deep. Diego Fagundes. I love Zardes. I think Rigoni is going to kind of settle in. I just got confidence in Josh Wolf and that system that he's kind of built now to get this team playing at an extra high level. I think that Driussi in behind as kind of like a second striker, number 10. Even playing in behind Zardes is going to open up a lot of opportunities. Maxi Urruti is a great super sub with Will Bruin. I mean, how can you go wrong there? Alex Ring's fantastic. The defense has gotten better. I think, as far as like what they were going to be missing with the signing of Vysen or however you say that, I don't know. But I think, looking at this defense, looking at the attacking options, I think Austin FC have exactly what it takes to contend for MLS Cup. The only thing standing in their way, I think, are a couple of these big hitters, like an LAFC, like a Philadelphia Union, and then maybe some other sneaky dark horses that are going to kind of get in and we'll kind of talk about. But yeah, I think 100% contenders. And I think, they've kind of cut some of the fat that they need around the club, including Claudio. So as an advisor, I don't think he's going to have much of a role. So I'm looking forward to kind of seeing the next
That's
steps.
an in name only, I think, is what that is. It's a
Yeah.
where you're going to leave quietly type of thing is how I read that.
It's kind of like when you're not fired, you resign, right? It's like I'll just step back and take an advisory role,
right?
With the company.
It was the Bob Chapek thing where they're like,
Yeah.
we're forcing you to step down, all right? And it's like, I stepped down due to pressure from the board, but I am saving my face.
Yep. All right, Charlotte FC, the Pop-Tart kit has been released, Jordan. But are the playoffs next? Are they going to be featuring those lovely kits in a playoff game coming up here soon in 2023?
Hope so. I think that they can make the playoffs. Obviously, there's 9 teams that can now. So there's a chance. I think that is the next step that they would want to do is make the playoffs and make like because did they make it last year? I am already blanking.
No,
they missed out just by like a few points, right?
Yeah, I think it was 2 points or something.
So yeah, obviously the next thing is get in. But if I'm them, if I get to the play-in and lose, I think that'd be a disappointment a bit. I think if you want to see a real step, it's get the 8 seed, win the game, and get to that first round with the best of 3. And I think that is the next step for this team if they can put everything together.
Yeah, I think obviously the defense was a huge question mark with the unfortunate passing of Anton Walks. Christian Fuchs retires. But Jordan, since we've talked, they added Tui Loma, who's I think is a really good center back in this league. I think that adds at least some formidable center backs to the roster, some depth there next to Malanda. Enzo Capetti, I'm really interested to kind of see how he adapts. And I think that's ultimately what will keep Charlotte from the playoffs if he comes in and he's not exactly what they think he's going to be. Because Karol Swiderski cannot do this alone. And I think that he needs something else, right? You and I talk at length about some of these teams that just have the one option, right? That they struggle with having another player, kind of like a Hani Mukhtar. This team can't be that if they want to make the playoffs. 9 spots, I think that's a pretty reasonable ask to say, hey, let's make the playoffs this year, right? Because if playoffs had been around with 9 spots last year, they'd have made it. So, I think they would have made it. I can't ever remember where they finished.
They did, yeah. I think that's what got my mind thinking that, because I think when we previewed Charlotte, we said
they were the 9th.
They were the 9th. So if there's 9 teams, you want an improvement. So you don't want to just make the playoffs. You want to get like the 8, right? Or you want to get higher. But yeah, Yeah, so you're right. If they would have had 9 teams last year, they would have at least made the play-in.
Yeah. So with the amount of turnover in the back, I think that's going to be the most difficult thing. Their center back duo, kind of not having those two anchors that kind of captained your teams last year. So yeah, I think it's going to be interesting too to see if Karol Swiderski is still around in the summer. I know that he had been linked at multiple times. If he does take that next step, he's going to become one of the better strikers in this league. And I think you're looking kind of like at an Adam Buksa kind of deal where teams are going to come after him, especially in the summer. That's when the European clubs like to sign those strikers. So, yeah, I think that, yes, Charlotte is next step playoffs or it's a bust, honestly. So, all right. Speaking of bust, let's talk about the dumpster fire, the Chicago fire. Jordan, can they avoid the wooden spoon?
I don't want to spoil
Right. How bad
my
is this
thoughts
team going to
there.
be, Jordan? Do they have any glimmer of hope? Is there anything that you can look forward to with this club that is exciting?
Honestly, I can't think of anything. Like Gaga was exciting last year. He's gone.
John Duran.
Durant, yeah, he was exciting. He's gone. That's kind of the stuff that I'm like, I'm sure there'll be some bright spots in the season. All right. Like I do think there'll be some players that'll come up that you're like, oh, they're playing great. But like I don't think they've added a lot. And I don't think like, Shabilko had 5 goals last year. As a Union fan, I know how his output is. I don't think he is going to suddenly be, scoring like crazy again. So I don't I think it's going to be a pretty dark season for them with very little bright spots.
Yeah, I'm just interested. I'm looking at their starting 11 right now that's listed out on MLS.com or MLSsoccer.com, and it's Shabelko, Chris Mueller, who doesn't, he's never panned out where he's been. He's never kind of risen to that hype. I think Torres is an exciting player along with Shaqiri. I think those are two attacking players that the Chicago Fire can kind of look forward to. But yeah, I just look at this team and man, I really struggle to find any kind of bright spots for this team. There's not really much of a young presence that's going to kind of come onto the scene. I think like a John Duran, but again, we it's hard to kind of call those, and that's what makes this league so hard to predict is the fact that some of these players just burst onto the scenes. But this team it's going to be a really long winter and a really long summer for this club. And I think that's kind of what we can just leave it at until we get to later on in our show. So let's move on to the next team just because we can talk a little bit more about them in depth a little later. But the next team, Jordan, is a lot of excitement. FC Cincinnati, a legit contender in the Eastern Conference. Dare we say that, Jordan? Is that something that we can say with FC Cincinnati?
I think we can. You know, we always talk about how the Union is the strongest team in the East. They're going to be competing on so many fronts this year with the Champions League that can give a team like Cincinnati an opportunity to maybe jump up the table a bit, be a little bit more of a challenge. Doesn't mean they're going to finish first, but I think that they can be a bigger challenge than they've been. I mean, this team is getting better. It was a huge increase last year, but you just think that with more time for Noonan and Chris Albright, that it's going to be an even better team this year. They have the experience of a playoff game. They have an experience of playing a really great playoff game against the Union, which was a top team in the East last year, top team in MLS. So this team should be confident. I think they can be a real challenger in the East.
Yeah, I think they're going to be better at home too, right? I think at TQL Stadium, like that's a really tough place that should be a really tough place to play. And I think that's what it's going to become this year. I think this year they've gotten the defense solid. I think in the last month or two, they really show that they could be a top team in the Eastern Conference with Matt Miazga kind of anchoring that back line, which I think he's done a phenomenal job of doing. I think the big question mark, right, that we're all kind of asking, Jordan, is can the three-headed monster become the three-headed monster they were last year? And is the three-headed monster going to be existent, or is it going to be two? I think Brenner is the big question mark. He's got a lot of interest from the Premier League, and if he's got an interest from the Premier, I don't see him being around much longer. I think maybe the summer is it for Brenner. I think right now he's kind of dealing with some green card issues, much like the rest of the MLS. I guess there's a huge issue with green cards right now, so that kind of shakes
It's the
up the
issue
MLS.
every single
It's
year.
so
Well,
wild.
Corey Burke always had an issue every
Yeah,
single year with the union. I haven't heard that being an issue in New York though. But yeah, it was an issue a lot for Corey Burke here, and it just happens. I like it used to always be like, and Union had a ton of issues with green cards for multiple players that you're like, why is it always an issue every season when this is literally their job? Like, how is it taking that long for the government to approve something when it's their work? It's kind of strange.
yeah. So I mean, looking at this team though, like with Cincinnati, they're going to get a lot better at home, and if they get a lot better at home, like they're an above 500 team on the road, which was really solid. I just like to have guys that can just score like they do, with a Brandon Vasquez, with a Brenner, with a Lucho Costa, like they're just a solid attack. So I think yes, this team has the potential to be a legit contender. Let's move on to Colorado Rapids. Colorado Rapids are in a free fall. Is the free fall of 2022 over? Jordan, they went from first to 10th in the Western Conference last year, missed the playoffs, whiffed on the playoffs. Is that going to continue heading into 2023?
It depends what you mean by continue. If they're going to continue free falling to where they're bottom, or if they're just going to stay around 10th. I think the latter is more appropriate. I think that's more likely for them to stick around 10th for them to keep on dropping. But, at the end of the day, LAFC won it all and they were the winners of the West. So, in this case, Ricky Bobby was right. If you're not first, you're last, and that's exactly how it felt probably for the Rapids last year.
The biggest signing coming over is Kevin Cabral. They get Cole Bassett back.
Yeah.
I just, yeah, there's a lot wrong, I think, with the Rapids. They did go out and find a goalkeeper in Illich. He's going to replace Will Yarborough, who's been their goalkeeper for quite some time. So it'll be interesting to kind of see if those kind of shore up some of those defensive issues in the back. They're not horrible defensively. I think they're pretty decent usually. So Maxo's a really good defender from everything that I've heard. He's the center back they're going to pair with Abubakar. But if your top signing, the one that you really I think made headlines with was Kevin Cabral. I'm not sure that the season's going to go so well. But again, we could be wrong. The Rapids could finish first again. We'd all be like, "What the heck? The Rapids finished first again? That's wild." But I'm in the latter of the belief that I think like a 10th or 9th spot is pretty realistic for this team, which we'll kind of get to in our previews when we do get to them. So the next team up, Jordan, is going to be the Columbus Crew, the Wilfred Nancy effect, and boy, could it be an effect that they feel in Columbus.
Yeah, I think that they should have a huge jump up a bit. Maybe not huge. I don't know. I saw some people put them really high in the East. I
I saw
think that
3 or 4. Like,
yeah, I think
yeah.
that's a little puzzling. But I do think that they'll be better than last year. I think that the goal obviously is they have to make the playoffs. They fired Caleb Porter for missing it 2 years in a row. So I feel like it has to be it has to be playoffs or bust. Not that Nancy gets fired over this because it's 1 year in, but I mean, that's the goal for this year, especially 9 teams. Make the playoffs. But I think they'll probably finish well above the 9th spot, if I'm being honest.
Derek Etienne Jr. and Pedro Santos are gone. So, Jordan, they're kind of running it back to this similar kind of team, same kind of team. So, if Wilfred Nancy coaches this team and they do get a playoff spot, I think you're going to see the glaring, I guess, difference between Wilfred Nancy and Caleb Porter. I think you really will kind of see the effect that Wilfred Nancy can have. But again, this isn't his team. I look at this team and I say, this is Caleb Porter's team. He's just now running it in the Wilfred Nancy system. Like, I really do feel that. Chucho could be a top goal scorer in this league.
Full season for him. Yeah. So I do think that'll help tremendously.
Yeah, massive. A massive player on a massive stage. I think that this will end up being one of the best players in MLS from what we saw last year. So excited about seeing Chucho. Excited about seeing Zelarayan playing more with Chucho. Because I think that connection could be lethal. It's kind of what Hani Mukhtar is missing. So Hani will be jealous of the other colors in yellow. So anything else with the Nashville? Now we're going to start talking about Nashville now. Let's talk DC United then. It has to be a better year than last year, right? That's the big question.
Yeah, it'll be a better year than last year. For me, for them, I think they'll, not to spoil where I have them, but I do think that they'll be better than last year. I think Rooney having a full season. I think him bringing in some. I mean, they brought in some good players. I think so. I do think it has to be better than last year. If it's not, then they're in even deeper hell than we thought.
Do you think Wayne Rooney, if he does have success, do you think he stays much longer than just a year?
It depends. I think Everton kind of have their man now. I think that would be the one job that would have pulled him away. I think I think he'll see out the contract at this point. It would have to take Everton, what, getting relegated, um, to maybe pull him back over. But then I don't know if he wants to be a championship manager again. He's done that, so I don't know.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to kind of see with DC United, Jordan. They bring in a ton of players that I'm excited to see on this stage, just because I think there's some interesting signings here. Mateus Click is one of those players coming from Leeds United, coming from the Premier League, matching up with the Christian Benteke. We're going to get a whole season of Christian Benteke. Hopefully, he usually doesn't play all the matches, but he will play as many as possible. They have Taxi Founces. They've added guys like Uan. They've added guys like Rodriguez. I think Pedro Santos too. So it'll be interesting to kind of see how this DC United team kind of fares this season, just because I think they're obviously going to be better than last year. Moving on, FC Dallas, can they disrupt the top of the West once again, or are they just a step underneath LAFC and Austin, kind of the same as they were last year?
I think I forget what I said during our preview, but I believe I said something akin to I think that they can maybe make a push for second place in the West. So if they do that, I think that kind of would prove that answer correct, that they can kind of disrupt. I think they could actually probably put up a challenge for the West too. I think LAFC might drop a little bit just because of them losing Bale, losing Blessing. Like they've lost some
Chicho.
players,
Yeah.
Chicho, Aranjo. So they've lost some players, right? And I feel like sometimes teams when they win that cup, they're like mission accomplished. It's not like you're going to get a little bit of a drop off. So I could see it where Dallas can maybe jump up there. I think they have just as good of a shot in the West as Austin. I would say.
Yeah, and I know you were high on the defense because they do go at Ibiaga, who I think was a missing
Yeah,
kind of
yeah.
link last year. They did lose Matt Hedges, but there's not much step back. I mean, Matt Hedges is a proven veteran, but Ibiaga can defend in this league as well. So I think that's kind of where they solidify that. Jordan, they're going to slot in Sebastian Lletget back into the team, which is exciting because he was with the Revs. Didn't play as much, and Bruce kind of wanted that relink with a lot of he does with a lot of players. It just didn't work out in the time, I think. But he's headed back to Dallas, and I think that this team, adding him back into a very, very young, exciting attacking force that Dallas is going to be, with Paul Areola kind of anchoring that force. I think this is going to be a really exciting team to watch this year. Heading into the next team, Jordan, it's going to be the Houston Dynamo. They can't keep getting away with this. Jordan.
You can't keep getting away with it! He can't keep getting away with it! He won't.
Good. It's good because I didn't plan that. I did plan that. I wanted that to happen, but I forgot to tell you that I had put that in there. So
I read the thing.
That's
So
great.
I was on the same wavelength here. Yeah, I'm assuming when you say they can't keep getting away with this, you mean Houston, what, being awful? I think you're right. They can't. I was a little higher on Ben Olsen than you were last week, and I think we were kind of both down on him when it happened. But I do think that it'll be a bit better for them under Ben Olsen. I'm not saying a huge leap, right? We'll see where I put them. But I do think that it is a big enough encouraging step where they stick with it and they think, all right, we got something here. Next year we can maybe put together some more stuff. So I think that they'll not get away with it. I think that they'll go ahead and improve slightly.
Yeah, the more you look at it, I think Ben Olsen, right, is probably what you're thinking is Ben Olsen can unlock Herrera. Like, I think that's a big thing. They did not get him. Hector Herrera was not unlocked last year with, I believe it was Paul Nagamura. Can't remember which coach we were on last year. But Sebastian Ferreira is a good player. I think can be even better in this league. So, yeah, I think no, they cannot keep getting away with this, but maybe Ben Olsen's the right step. I don't see it. I'm not high on the Dynamo. Some people are like, well, maybe this will kind of change the complexion of the club. I just don't see it, and it'll be a matter of time before they're changing their logos again. So, SKC Jordan, lots of question marks, but you know who's not one of them? Cristiano Ronaldo does not sign with SKC.
I thought you were gonna say Vermees, because
Right,
he's now
and he's no longer a question.
Yeah, he's
right?
no longer a question mark.
Yeah, the big question was he going to leave for the U.S. men's national team? I think it looks like he's going to now. So, Jordan, what are your thoughts on SKC?
Should be better than last year. I think in our preview I said that they should be more middle of the pack again. They should be challenging. They shouldn't be near the bottom. They have their DPs healthy again. They should be good, you would think. And I guess we'll see if extending Vermees is the right step, if they end up coming out of the gate looking a little worse for wear again.
Yeah, they're going to get a full year of Willie Agata, who was fantastic last year. Alan Polito is now a super sub, looking at the depth chart, obviously, unless he's going to kind of slot in every once in a while for Willie Agata. But having Daniel Shallowy up top is a massive, massive thing. Johnny Russell, like vintage wine, man, just gets better with age. And then you got Remy Walter, Tommy in that midfield. I really like this club. I know that the defense is going to kind of be that concern. They go and get Fontes to kind of anchor that back line along with Veloter because Courtney Ford is hurt. So, you know, I think they've got a decent enough. I know Leibold was he was the one, Jordan, that had like 30 some odd goals and 150 assists or something crazy. MLS kind of padded stats, but I don't know. I'm excited to kind of see where SKC lands this year, just because I think they'll be healthy. I think they'll be a threat again in the West. I really do. I'm starting to think more and more as time goes on, they'll be a little bit more of a threat than they were obviously last year. So we'll get into that as we get further down. LA Galaxy still playing second fiddle in LA.
Yeah. Did you just see the news? Chicharito got injured last night during a game. Yeah, he got injured during a friendly or some sort of game or practice or something. Maybe it was not yesterday. Maybe it was a couple days ago. But they said he's not going to be ready for the opener. And if he is ready, it'd be off the bench. But they don't even think that he'll be available. So not a great start for the season for the LA Galaxy. They got a huge game against LAFC at the Rose Bowl. Let's not also forget that their fans are protesting Chris Klein. So they're not even probably going to have as many fans as they should. So yeah, they'll still be playing second fiddle.
Yeah, still playing second fiddle with Jordan, but I do like some of their moves this offseason. They go and add Memo Rodriguez, who I think is a really good, solid piece, and I think Greg Vanny gets him. Yeah, like we really enjoy watching him play. Chris Mavinga, I'm interested to see that, just because I think that his time is up, just like Aaron Long. So there's two center backs in LA that were so hyped that I think shouldn't be as hyped as possible. I think you should kind of lower those expiration. It could be expirations, but lower those expectations. They go get Caligari, who was a right back that played at I'm gonna butcher this. I think it's Fluminense or some. It was one of the big clubs in Brazil. I forget what they're called.
Fluminense.
Yeah, Fluminense. Thank you, Jordan. But yeah, if Chicharito's hurt, Jordan, you know who gives that? You know who gets the reins? Joveljic. So I am excited to kind of see that, because I think this kid can just score, and I'm not sure that he can continue playing behind Chicharito. I think there's just got to be some way they can all play together. If not, I don't know. It bugs me just because I think he's a star in this league, and I think he's going to get a chance elsewhere if he doesn't start now. So, anything else, LA Galaxy?
Nope.
All right, LAFC, silverware or bust, Jordan?
I think that's what Gio said when we had him on, right?
Yeah,
I think that's probably true. I think with all the competitions that they're a part of, they won 2 trophies last year. I'm not saying you have to one-up it with 3. I just think you have to win something, because that's what's expected for you now. Trundolo, first season, won 2 trophies, not making it easy for himself for year 2. But yeah, I'd say silverware or bust. I think it'll be a big disappointment if they don't win like one of the 4 or 5 trophies that's available to them.
I got a question for you. Go after CCL or defend your MLS Cup title? Which one?
Oh, I would want to go after CCL because I would want, before it was you want to be the first MLS team. That's not the case anymore. But what you want is you've gotten to a final in CCL before you lost that. I feel like you would want to win it. And every new trophy is better, right? You have a supporter shield already. You have an MLS Cup. Go out there and get something that you don't have. Now, of course, the ideal would be CCL and MLS Cup, right? Because while we're talking about Galaxy playing second fiddle, they still have 5 MLS Cups. They still have 4 more than LAFC at this point. Of course, LAFC is newer. But if I'm LAFC and I want to be taken more seriously, I want to win a Continental Trophy, and I also want to start winning and racking up more MLS Cups to look at LA Galaxy and say, you thought you had a 5 MLS Cup lead, we're coming for it. You know, that's my thought for them.
They lose Chicho Arango, who had 30 goals in the last 2 seasons. Jordan, that's a big loss. And you talked about the big losses that LAFC have kind of encountered with Latif Blessing, Chicho Arango. You also had Gareth Bale leave. I mean, that's a sizable gap in that roster. And really they have filled it. So it'll be interesting to kind of see what LAFC does. I think, yes, you're right. I think CONCACAF Champions League is where my focus would lie, just because I think, one, with how expanded the playoffs are, I think you have a better shot of just, kind of cruising through that first round if they do get a number 1 or 2 seed. So, yeah, I think that CCL is a big time thing here. But Jordan, it'll be interesting to kind of see if there's any kind of regression, which I feel like there has to be without those players. So next up, Inter Miami. Jordan, the team built for Messi, but if there's no Messi, it's going to get messy, right?
I don't think it'll get messy. I do think that they have enough still. I do like the Joseph signing. I think that they have enough to be a good middle playoff team. So I wouldn't say it's going to get messy. Messy to me implies if he doesn't come over that they're going to be, bottom type stuff. So I would say no. I don't think it's going to get messy with or without him. I think that they'll be okay.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. Can Joseph revitalize his career? Is he the headache that Atlanta thought him out to be? I don't think he is. I think he's a fun player. He's an exciting player. He's dynamic. Is he a diva? Maybe, but I think he's a good striker still. I don't think he's going to get back to crazy Joseph, but he's going to get 10 goals, and that helps his team tremendously with Campana up against next to him. Jordan, there's rumors out there that Messi still is considering Miami, and what is it? Is it Fab? Yeah, Fab said that he was still considering it, was still a viable option. If they get Lionel Messi, they're going to win a trophy. I'm calling it now. Like, they're going to win some kind of trophy if they get Lionel Messi.
Write that down.
Yeah, write it down. Put it in ink. But yeah, I think it's exciting. But Jordan, if they don't get Messi, what stops this club from going and getting something big too? Like a big fish, another one. Like, I know it's not Messi, but like,
I was going to say, what's bigger than Messi? Nothing.
Right. Maybe Erling Haaland.
Yeah.
I mean, City might have to sell him at this point. I don't know. I think, Jordan, yes, you're right. I don't think this team is in bad shape. I actually kind of like this team. I'm interested to kind of see how they do. And I'm saying that as an Orlando fan, so take that with a grain of salt. Okay, next up, Jordan, is Minnesota United. Ray No Show. Jordan, Ray No Show.
Yeah, I like that.
Thank you.
Yeah, it sounds like he's not going to show. Adrian Heath was kind of downplaying it. I think I saw that he was like,
"Yep,
he's still dedicated to Minnesota." We'll see. We'll see.
Right.
I don't think you're dedicated to Minnesota if you don't show up for game 1. So, yeah, that's my thoughts.
Yeah, this is really bad news. If you're a Minnesota United fan, you're covering your eyes, you're covering your ears. You've seen this before. You've seen this with the Timberwolves. You've seen this with the Twins. Despair, darkness, uncertainty. It should all be a familiar feeling. It's going to be dark, just like
they did see it with Minnesota earlier this year when Correa did not want to be part of them and went to the Giants, then went to the Mets, and then had to end up back at the Twins again due to his physical. So, kind of a similar situation to Reynosa.
Yeah. This is brutal. Poor fan base. Thinking about you, Jack and AJ, thinking about you. All right, CF Montreal trimming the fat, Jordan. That they did. And you know who doesn't like fat? Their new coach.
Hernan Lozada. I would say that they trimmed more than the fat. I think they don't have a lot here. Losing Mihalovic is a big loss. And then losing Torres to Philly, it's kind of an odd situation where I don't know how they're going to look this year. And in fact, I think this might be a Colorado situation where they go from a top to the east to near the bottom, unfortunately.
Yeah, and I'm always scared to predict that because the last times we projected Montreal not to do well, we absolutely got burnt. They were the team that I'll always remember them burning us in that first year. And then fans were like, "Oh, look at that! Look what we did!" And I was like, "I'm so sorry." But yeah, Ismail Kone, Jordy Mihailovic, Alistair Johnson, three of the best players gone. It's a lot of turnover. Hernan Losada is going to need a lot more magic in his hands. And I don't think they have it, Jordan. I'm kind of concerned about this team. I'm interested to kind of see where this lands with them. This is the biggest question mark, I think, in the East for me. Like, I can get a sense of where everybody else kind of is. I think, we'll get to these other clubs. They'll kind of grow into it. But this club, I can't identify. I'm just like, I have no idea. I don't know what it's going to look like. So
we don't know what their jersey is going to look like either. So fitting.
They won't know what they look like. So, all right, time for Nashville FC. And speaking of it, time for Hani-led team to finally cash in. Get it? Because Johnny
Cash, yeah. It depends on what you mean by cash in. If you mean getting a trophy,
get a damn trophy.
I don't know. I think they need some more pieces to really make that a goal. I think their goal is going to be top of the East type range and make a run in the playoffs, but it can't be all Hani. It can't be all Hani Mukhtar. They have to get some pieces that can score the goals. What was it? The second goal scorer had 5? Is that right?
Yes.
After Hani's 23? It's not great. They
No.
need somebody else. They need somebody else up there too that's going to be able to help him out some, because it's tough to do that 2 seasons in a row too. So he's done MVP caliber 2 in a row. Ask him to do it again in a third, you might see a little bit of a dip. So I would say that it's not time for them to cash in unless they make some moves in the summer.
Yeah, Fafa Pico is not the answer to all your prayers there in Nashville. All right. So I would make a Johnny Cash reference, Jordan, but I'm not a big Johnny Cash fan. So maybe a song that
what?
Walking the Line. I don't know.
God's gonna cut you down if you can't, if it's not gonna answer the prayers there.
Right. So defense is going to be 100% solid. I got all confidence in the world that this is going to be one of the best defenses in the league once again. But we're just not going to see any kind of production besides Hani Mukhtar unless they sign somebody.
And if Hani Mukhtar doesn't have a good season, then they'll have tons of Folsom Prison Blues there in Nashville. So it's not going to be good.
They see the train coming. All right. I know that part.
I have the Johnny Cash references. Don't worry.
Thank you. Speaking of a revolution, Jordan, New England Revolution. Hey, at least we have that supporter shield from, a couple years ago, right?
True. I'm not high on this team, so I think that's probably accurate. I really wonder how long Arena can kind of last. I think he's kind of just going through the motions at times, is what it seems like, especially in some of these press conferences I've seen. I mean, that's how he's always kind of been, but
on to New Jersey.
I think it's almost just it's almost like he's just prolonging the retirement a bit. I don't know. I think that the peak was that supporter shield, and since then it's kind of been a slow decline. And like you said, he brings in players that he wants to work with again from LA or from the national team, and then it just fizzles out and they move on. That's one thing I'd worry about with Bobby Wood, is because we just saw that with Legit. So that's something that I would be cautioned about.
You can write this piece down too. They're the selling club. Like, they've become like the Red Bull. Like, that's what they've become, except they're just not as good on the product side. Carlos Heel is a top player in this league, has been one of the best players in the history of MLS. If you kind of look at the numbers and go by the numbers and stats and underlying stats, like I've said multiple times when we've done this, they've wasted his time there. And it's not to him, it's not his fault. Like they've had some pieces they had to move on from, right? I'm not gonna lie. Adam Buksa needed to move on. Matt Turner had his chance. He goes to Europe. He's moved on, right? Tajon Buchanan, same thing. Tajon Buchanan's now getting scouted by some of the best teams in the world. These guys had to move on, but they're gonna have the same issue. Petrovic, I don't think is there past summer. I think Manchester United is all over that. I think that De Gea and them cannot keep that spot anymore with this guy over here tearing this league apart. And he's a better version, I think, of Matt Turner. So I honestly don't see him being around the summer. I don't see DeJuan Jones being around in the summer either. He was fantastic in that January camp. I think this team is just blah. And I think you're right, Jordan. I think like a certain other somebody that was in New England needs to retire to Florida, come on down and coach the Tampa Bay Rowdies whenever they become an MLS club. So
Or just
anything
coach
else?
them in USL. That'd be
Right.
pretty great.
That would be hilarious. Like the academy teams, it'd be so cool.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're done with the Revs.
All right, let's get some energy and let's go to the Red Bulls. Can they challenge the Union in the East, Jordan? You and I seem pretty high on these guys.
Yeah, I think they can challenge them. I think that they'll be a top club in the East. They finished fourth after what I felt was a pretty lackluster season for them last year. Like they kind of were like, and then like, and then if you're listening, I did like this motion of a flat line and then kind of a spike. But that's what I kind of think of them. So yeah, I do think they can challenge. I'm not sure if they are good enough to challenge for a supporter shield or if they'll actually finish with the first spot, but I think they can probably go a good bit of the way. Like, hey, we're in this.
Yeah, I love Van Zier. I think that's a great signing. That's going to add some goals, hopefully. I think that's where this team's truly lacking. Klimala did not do it last year and ended up losing his starting spot in the 11 by the end of May. And that was a big DP signing. I think Luquinhas becomes a better player this season as well, getting adjusted to the league. I think Lewis Morgan honestly takes another step. I'm not sure he gets 14 goals again. Maybe. I don't know. But it seems like he's destined to have a good year as well. Edelman's an exciting player in their midfield, along with Caceres. I've always been a Christian Caceres fan. I remember the first time I ever said anything about him, and that guy for the Red Bull ripped me. I was like, "What's happening?" I think he's a great player, and he's proven to be. Tolkien with the beautiful blonde locks. I don't know if you've seen Tolkien's hair. He's got beautiful blonde locks now, no longer the long brown, but I just like this club a lot, Jordan. I think it's an exciting club to watch, and I get to see them first day. So I'm excited to kind of see a team that could be contenders in the East. Let's move on to NYCFC, Jordan. Which gets built quicker, this roster or their stadium?
Well, definitely the roster because the stadium's well ways off. But I would hope by the summer that they're adding a lot more pieces because this team has just lost so many people. I mean, the fact that so many commentators have them so low in the East after they're a consistent competitor just shows you how much they lost.
Yeah, Santi Rodriguez still not announced and still not official. If that doesn't come, then this team I think really struggles. I think they'll struggle quite a bit anyway, just because I think the pieces that they're missing is too tremendous. It's too much to overcome with the very little that they've done. I'm looking forward to Gabby Pereira. I'm looking forward to seeing what his second season is, or first full season is going to look like in MLS. I think that's a really exciting piece. But until they kind of figure out what they're doing in that midfield, I think this is going to be a disaster. I don't think they'll create enough. I'm not sure Tyus Magno can score at a high rate to play at number 9 in this league. I'm not excited about this club. I think they lost a ton too with Sean Johnson leaving, with their stud and kind of that anchor in the back with Anton Tinnerholm and Alex Collins. So not high on NYCFC, just about as high as their stadium currently sits. So Orlando, Jordan, let's talk about my boys, Orlando City. How quick does it all come together, or does it at all?
I would say it comes together. I think it comes together, I'll say pretty quick. I'll say it'll take a few weeks, maybe by April, that they'll be maybe feeling a lot better, feeling more gel, getting stuff together. That's what I would probably say. So I would say, maybe 6 weeks for them to get it going. I do think that they could be an actual challenger in the East. So, yeah, I'm feeling pretty optimistic.
Yeah, covering Orlando on my own podcast, Jordan, I'm feeling really good about their chances this year. I think they've done a fantastic job building this roster with a lot of pieces that they went and sold off. Jordan, I thought we were going to end up, I thought they were going to end up and going the NYCFC route where they're just kind of piecing it back together one by one. But they went and they've pretty much changed the whole look of the starting 11, aside from the pretty much the spine ish. So it looks to be exciting. I think Erjan Kara is a great piece to have up front, but they're talking a lot about this kid McGuire coming in and also having the chance to start in this league is crazy to think, but it's kind of like that Daryl DK. This kid is a strong brute force up top. I think Facundo Torres has another great season. You know, he's had a lot of links to Arsenal. Martino Hayda is the most exciting piece I think that we've added. I think their biggest thing is going to be the health of their defense. Center backs Janssen and Antonio Carlos need to stay healthy. And can Mikey Holiday, who's just a teenager, can he step into the role in the shoes of Uan, who's been one of the staples of this club? Can he play that right back position? A lot of people think he can. He's going to have some growing pains, but they think that he's going to be a pretty good player in this league and for the U.S. men's national team, possibly going down the road until I think it's 2030 and when they thought he would kind of get in the mix. But yeah, I'm really excited about this team. I think this team, if they gel, Jordan, can be a threat in the East. Now let's go over to your Philadelphia Union, Jordan. The state of the Union is very strong.
I would agree. I like the depth pieces they added. So I think I'm feeling pretty good about it.
Yeah, I'm excited about the Union. Think that they've got some really good depth. Best team in the league? Question mark. Let's move on to Portland. Jordan, Portland, if they struggle with consistency again, at least Timber Joey's going to look damn good.
Got the plaid. Yeah, I do think that they'll be a little better of a team this year. I would think, I would hope. So I think you'll get more than just Timber Joey looking pretty good.
Agreed. I think Evander's an exciting piece to add to the midfield. I'm excited to kind of see that. The aging core, right? You and I talked about this. When the core ages in timber, it oftentimes falls apart. I think that's kind of what we're worried about with this club. Also, the distractions off the field. Until they figure that out with the front office, I just feel like this is just a club waiting for disaster. RSL, they can't possibly finish 7th again, right? It's 2 years in a row.
I just had to look at where I had them. So my answer to the question would be no, they can't.
No, they can't. You know what's funny? I have to go look.
Do you have them 7th?
Yeah.
So for you, it's a yes, they can.
Yes, they can. Gosh.
I mean, yeah, they're kind of like a team that's going to hover around that spot is how I feel. So we'll see where I put them in a couple minutes here.
Defensively, usually pretty sound. I think the big concern is always going to be in the attack with RSL. Damir Krylok's back and healthy. What is he going to be like? Is he going to be a ghost of himself? We don't know. I think their defense, like I love McMath, I love Glad, I love Silva. I think those are good cores of your defense. So I think they've got a good defense. It's just a matter of they're just not going to score a ton. And I think that's pretty much what fans are going to have to expect. Next up, Jordan, on the list as we kind of get closer towards the end, we got Seattle. There are a lot of ifs in Seattle. Jordan, what do we think is going to happen with this club this year?
That's the question? Oh, my. Okay. I was like, that can go any way. I think they'll rebound a bit. I think they will. But yeah, there's some question marks on how good, the player acquisition will be. They lost Garth Logaway, who made that team a dynasty, really, with all the trophies they won. So, yeah, lots of ifs. I would agree.
Jordan Moore's health. Rui Diaz is already hurt. That's not a good sign. They did go get a bear just for this reason, because Rui Diaz cannot play a full season anymore. I don't think any of their players really can. I mean, you look at their defense, maybe Nuhu does. Like, I think he's one of the ones that can play full 34 matches. Nuhu. Reagan, I think Reagan's a great player, center back, young player. I think
Ronald Reagan, the actor?
No, Jackson Reagan. Ronald Reagan. Alex Roldan and Christian Roldan, durable, but the rest of that list, Nico Ladero, I don't see him playing a full season at all. Albert Rusnak, no. Rui Diaz, no. Freddie Montero, no. Jordan Morris, no. Joao Paulo, no. Like, that's a lot of ifs. So like you said, Jordan, player acquisition might be down, and they might need some players because a lot of these guys do tend to get hurt.
Did we skip Quakes?
Yes, we did. Let's go back to
Okay.
the Let's go back to the San Earthquakes. No, San Jose Earthquakes. Jordan, the defense can't possibly be worse, right? 69 goals last year.
I mean, if we looked at how many DC gave up last year, yes, it can get worse. But I do think that it'll be better for San Jose this year.
Yeah, they go out and add a good piece, right? And we talked about, it was, why am I blanking? Jordan, I'm all of a sudden blanked on their center back that they've just literally signed. Why am I blanking on who it is? It's somebody that's. Thanks, Jordan.
Deleted all of our notes, too.
I did. Crap. Hold on. I'm going back. There we go. Jonathan Mensah. I was thinking he came.
There you go.
But I was like,
I think he's on my fantasy team, so I should have known that. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Jonathan Mensah, center back that they added, Jordan, should kind of stable out that defense. And I think their attack's fantastic. I think Cade Cowell has a breakout year. I think he might be one of those players that we look at and go, man, he really is something. I think there's a lot of European teams scouting him this year. So I think Cade Cowell has his breakout performance. I think the Quakes, Jordan, are going to be better than what they've been. So that's exciting. And plus, under Lucci, I think this thing's going the right way. St. Louis, just be competitive. Question mark, hashtag, I don't know, right?
Yeah, hashtag, just be competitive.
Hashtag, let's just be competitive. Let's have fun, guys. Just go have fun.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah. St. Louis, a lot of unknown. It's really hard to speak on expansion clubs for too long just because we just don't know. Jordan and I liked some of the MLS players they have. We really like the Tim Parker move. We think that that's great. I think that when you add a big-time goalkeeper from a European country, right, when you go and add Berkey, I think that's a big deal. Goalkeepers are huge, like you know, Jordan, like I know in Orlando. Goalkeepers can make or break your team. Toronto, the window is closing, and I'm not sure
I would disagree with that.
Oh, come on.
No, I totally would.
How so?
They just brought in Bernardeschi, and
that's true.
Bringing in the two Italians, Insigne, right, and Bernardeschi, I think the window is opening. I think that they'll, of course, have to supplement those pieces over the course of the next few years. But if we're talking about a window closing, it would probably only be for Bob Bradley.
Ah, there we go. Look at that shout, Jordan, with the shout there. And on the other side, I think that with the aging Italians that came over, I think that's where I'm kind of leaning. Michael Bradley's not going to get any younger. Their defense was just a disaster last year. They go and add Matt Hedges. He's not a spry young man. I think they've got 2 or 3 years here where they can compete, and I think that's it. Like after that, you're done. Which is, I think the lifespan of most teams. I'm just not sure they're good enough with what the roster currently looks like. And I think you're right, Jordan. Supplemental pieces are needed. And if they're added and they're younger, I think that's where you kind of look at it and go, okay, we've extended the window where we can compete. All right, Vancouver, these mountains are sure a slippery slope. Jordan, this team, like you said, has probably been the most irrelevant team since I've joined the league. What are your thoughts?
I'll say they've been on my mind quite a bit recently, these Vancouver Whitecaps, because I was watching Arrow, okay? The Green Arrow show, all right, which is filmed in Vancouver but takes place in a fictional city. And these bad guys are walking on a bridge, and what do I see? The Vancouver Whitecap logo over their shoulder on a lamppost. And it's just been in my mind ever since. But that should tell you all you need to know about why they were on my mind, and it not being because of the squad or because of their chances this year. So that's all I can really say about them.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think the defense is going to be below average at best. I think the attack has a lot to be determined. Deiber Caicedo cannot carry this whole team. Brian White needs to do something. I'm just not sure that this team. They did go and add their goalkeeper. And we talked about them adding a goalkeeper, Takakao. I don't know how to say that name at all. But I think he's a Japanese goalkeeper is what I believe. They did go add, I think it's Sergio Cordova, right? I think. Yeah. And he's a pretty decent attacking player in this league. I think that helps some, but I just don't know how much he really does help. Vite is really good in the midfield. Gold, pretty good in the midfield, but they just got a lot of average Joes, and I think that's where the big concern is. I just don't know if this team's good enough. But yeah, That's it for my headlines, Jordan. You can take it back over. That was a wild time, but thanks for indulging in my fun little headlines.
And now time for my headlines reach. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, now we will go.
Could you
over to
imagine? Like, we got to go through another 29 of these.
Let's see.
All right, let's go through. We're going to start with our Eastern Conference predictions. What we're going to do is we're going to read out what teams we have in each spot, and then we will not really tell you why. I think we did that just a bit in the headlines. But here we go. I'll start first here. I got the Union in first of the East, followed by Red Bull New York, followed by Orlando. Then I have Cincy, Nashville, Crew in 6th place, Toronto in 7th, Atlanta in 8th, Inter Miami in 9th is where I have them. So that would be the end of the playoffs. Missing out on the playoffs, I have Charlotte in 10th, New England Revolution in 11th, NYCFC 12th, Montreal in 13th, DC United in 14th, with Chicago in 15th. Logan.
Man, this is kind of weird because, like, how big of a question mark the East has been, and you and I are pretty similar on a lot of these. So I've got the Union first, similar as Jordan. Red Bull second, third Orlando, fourth Cincinnati, fifth Nashville, and that's where Jordan and I have the exact same top 5. And then I go 6th Toronto, 7th with the Crew, 8th with Charlotte, 9th with Atlanta. Missing the playoffs, I have Inter Miami at 10, NYCFC at 11, 12 is the New York, sorry, they're going to get really mad at that. New England Revolution, 13th is Montreal, DC United at 14th, and the 15th place team is the Chicago Fire. So 1 through 5, Jordan, and then 13 through 15, we have the exact same team.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting. That's a fun top 4 if we get those top 4. But top 4 doesn't matter anymore because it's not, right?
Yeah.
Well, I guess they still would.
Yeah, once you get to the next round.
They would still host. The higher seed still hosts.
That's true.
All right.
Yeah.
Let's look at the West. I have LAFC in first, Dallas in second, Austin in third, Seattle in fourth, Portland in fifth, Sporting in sixth, Galaxy in seventh, RSL in eighth, so they're not finishing seventh, and the Rapids in ninth. So that would be the playoff spots. Missing out on the playoffs, I have Vancouver, San Jose, Minnesota, Houston, St. Louis finishing last.
So I've got Austin first, LAFC second, Dallas in third, Seattle in fourth, the Galaxy in fifth, Portland in sixth, RSL in that lovely seventh spot. I just felt like that was just a safe bet at this point. Eighth is San Jose, ninth, Sporting Kansas City. That rounds out the playoffs. And then 10th, I have Colorado, 11th, Vancouver, 12th, Minnesota, 13th, Houston, and then 14th, we have St. Louis.
That just scared me. I was like, I don't see Colorado on my list because you wrote it as Rapids for me.
Oh, that's right. Colorado on me. Yeah.
I was like, oh my God, where's Colorado?
Right. Oops.
They're here.
They're there.
Okay. So also, I got to point out here, you wrote down Logan's coach of the year when it's my coach of the year. Do you see on the thumbnail it says Jordan,
Good.
but the name of it's Logan's?
Good.
Because we picked each other's coaches. I picked Oscar Pereira to win coach of the year. I think moving them up to third in the East would be a huge accomplishment after almost just missing the playoffs. And Logan, you have?
Jim Curtin. I'm going with the curtain closed again. I
originally wrote down Curtin, but I thought that would be 3 years in a row? Or 2 years. It would have been a lot. He's gotten a lot. He's gotten a lot. So I was like, I don't know if they'll do that.
I just think they're going to win a big trophy this year, and I'll leave it at that.
All right, I have Golden Boot winner here. Let's give it Hani Mukhtar. I got him for Golden Boot. Logan, you have?
I have Jesus Ferreira. I know a lot of people are going to go after me for that, but I was like, let's just think outside the box because it seems like nobody that we think is going to win ever wins. So I'm going to go with Jesus.
Yeah.
Why not?
And then here's a fun thing. Our MVP for both of us, we have Daniel Gazdag winning MVP. He was a contender for it last year, though I don't even think he got any votes for it, but he was good last year.
Yeah, I just feel like there's a lot of players that are regress a little bit, so I feel like he's a good shout.
Let's go with Logan's Supporter Shield winners.
Austin FC? What? I don't remember. No, I'm kidding. Yeah, Austin FC, Jordan. I think that the Union be focused on CONCACAF Champions League. I think LA is just not as good as they were last year. So, yeah, I'm going with Austin.
Yeah, I had LA with a dip, so that means I think the Philadelphia Union will win the Supporter Shield, which I just said last episode would be a bit of a disappointment if that's the only thing we get, because we already have that. Let's go with Wooden Spoon here. We have the Chicago Fire. They're going to burn that spoon right up. Yeah.
I don't have anything to add.
I'm sorry, Chicago. We've been dogging y'all all season.
But it's going to be bad. Close your eyes.
There you go. Now, I do have Austin winning a trophy. I have them winning the U.S. Open Cup this season, while Logan has
the New York Red Bull. Got to get him a trophy somewhere, right?
That's what Red Bull fans have been thinking for so long. Yep. Okay.
Oh, I know.
All right. Here's my pick for MLS Cup winner, and this is so funny again here. I have Orlando City SC.
I'm so excited, Jordan.
MLS
I cannot
Cup.
wait to go to the parade.
Logan has the Philadelphia Union.
They're going to be like, this is the worst show ever. I hate this show because they just pick each other's teams.
I'll take this, by the way. I'll take your season over my season any day of the week. That means Jim Curtin gets another Coach of the Year. We get another MLS Cup instead of Supporter Shield. We can add MLS Cup for the first time. The only bone to pick I think I have with you would be that the Red Bulls win the Open Cup in your season. But just funny that we have, just like we did for the coaches, we both have each other's teams there. And that's kind of the thing sometimes, right? Sometimes people outside are a little higher on your team than people that are on the inside watching your team. And it's not that I don't think the Union can do it. I just think that last year was the year. That's kind of just my vibe. And we missed it. We had a lead. We blew it. Now, of course, that would be a huge moment if they can go from being on the doorstep and losing it in penalties to winning it the next year. Would show mental toughness that I had no clue existed in this sport of soccer, even, because that is a heartbreaking way to lose it, and to come right back and win it, and possibly in your own house, would be just huge. Absolutely huge. So, hey, I'm down for it if it happens.
Yeah. And another shout that I don't think we really did. I don't think we did graphics for this, but the CONCACAF Champions League, I really do think that the Union are our best shot with MLS. Like, I really do believe that they're on the easy side of the bracket. Jordan, did you know if Orlando wins? So Orlando has to play Club America. They then have to go play Pachuca if they win.
Yeah.
And then Leon.
Yeah.
They would have to go through 3 of the big juggernauts in Mexico to get anywhere close to the final.
And we'll look at it. Because the midweek on the 4th,
that's right.
We have or not the 4th, but midweek we do have games on the 7th and 8th, I think.
And I said Club America, I meant Tigres, not Club.
Yes, Tigres. Okay, so let me go ahead and share with you what the schedule is, and we're going to pick our match of the week preview, which means I get the press.
It's time for the match of the week preview.
If that didn't kill your eardrums, I don't know what's wrong with you.
I turned it down because I remembered from last year.
I apologize for anyone who's fell asleep during our during our podcast with their headphones in, and then just probably woke up to that. I'm so sorry.
We're driving down the road what was that?
I didn't make that. That was something that we paid for, and it is much louder than any of our other stuff. Okay. So here we go. Match of the week preview. I'm going to list out all the games. I'm going to tell you how to watch them. It's going to be so much easier this year than it was last year. Saturday, February 25th, the season kicks off with Nashville against NYCFC at 4:30 p.m. Eastern time. That game is on Fox. And if you have Apple TV, it is free. All games this weekend are free. So that's going to be the only time I say that in this schedule. But of course, they are on the MLS season pass. We have At 7:30, Cincinnati and Houston. That is on the MLS Season Pass. 7:30, we have Philadelphia Union hosting Columbus Crew. That is on the Season Pass. Also at 7:30, we have DC United hosting Toronto. That is on the MLS Season Pass, and it is also on TSN if you're in Canada. At 7:30, Logan's going to be at this game. Orlando facing off against the Red Bulls. That is on the MLS Season Pass. It's also Apple TV free. Remember, I said all of these games are free, and I lied when I said that was the only time I would mention it. Also at 7:30, Atlanta hosting San Jose. That is on the MLS Season Pass. Charlotte hosts New England at 7:30 as well. Miami hosts Montreal with their new logo, no New Jersey. That is at 7:30 on the MLS Season Pass and TSN in Canada. We also have Dallas hosting Minnesota at 8:30. That's on the MLS Season Pass. Austin versus St. Louis in St. Louis's first match of the season. That's at 8:30. 9:30, LA versus LAFC in the Rose Bowl. That's on Apple TV. I was sure that would have been one of the Fox games you would have thought. Vancouver hosting RSL at 10:30 p.m. Eastern. That's also on TSN. Portland hosts SKC at 10:30. And then Sunday, February 26th, we have at 8 o'clock, Seattle versus Colorado on the MLS Season Pass and also on FS1. So, Logan, I ask you, what is the game of the week for you?
I got to do it. I'm going with the Orlando City game. It will be at Exploria Stadium against the Red Bull. I will be there, but I think that these are top two teams in the Eastern Conference, so I'm really excited about seeing them play. There's a lot of exciting players coming in for Orlando City. Pretty much the same squad coming in for Red Bull. They did add the striker and Van Zier, so I'm really excited to kind of see how that all comes together. And I think that the Red Bull, again, challenge for the top of the East with the Union and maybe Orlando City. So I'm excited to see this game. I'm excited to see Martino Ojeda. I'm excited to see the DPs that Orlando City boasts, and really just excited about being in the stadium. Jordan, we're here. We've finally done it, and I'm excited to roll out Apple TV Plus and watch some games.
The easy answer is LA versus LA and El Trafico. So I'm going to say that, but I'm going to give you a backup here. You think it would be Austin, St. Louis because of St. Louis's, but I'm actually going to go Portland, SKC. These are both two teams that underperformed. I would love to see how they come out to start the season. Portland at home, all the stuff going on with their ownership. How is that going to affect stuff? How's the team looking as they face off against a team that was really bad last year? And can SKC turn it around? Getting a point or even a win on the road at Portland would be a pretty good way to start their season. So I'm going to go with that one as well. But where am I going to be? I'm hoping to be at the Union game. We'll see how that shakes out for me on Saturday. But yeah, so that is our season preview. I also want to point out, as I was looking today, I was like, what team is getting the shaft here? Because we have 29 teams, which means obviously it's not an even number, which means one of these teams is not gearing up to start on the 25th. And the fans of this team are probably very happy to not have to tune in a week early. It's Chicago Fire. They are
just not going to want to play this year. They're like, you guys just come back next year.
They are the ones that will have to wait an extra week.
They're okay with that.
Able to, get their season started. And I think they start. Oh, I just had it. Who they start with next week. Let me check real quick while we are talking.
If you don't have it already, get Apple TV Plus. Highly recommended. Just kind of say that as a preface. But yeah, definitely do it. $79 for people that with Apple TV Plus already, $100 for people that don't. It is a fantastic way to watch games. Highly recommend it.
Chicago starts with NYCFC on the 4th of March.
Good. I heard they're going to be playing in the parking lot because they don't have a stadium or something.
It's in Chicago, so no, they will.
No, that's what I meant. Soldier Field. It's not a stadium.
Yeah,
I don't know what that is. A concrete jungle.
Well, that's it. That's what is going on this week. So we will be back on Monday, and we will be looking at all the action that happened on the weekend. We'll have our thoughts also on how the Apple TV presentation went. We'll get stadium thoughts from Logan, since he's with Orlando versus the Red Bulls. And then we will preview the next games. I'm also making graphics every week for what free games are going to be on. So you'll see that posted on the Twitter. You'll see that posted on the Instagram, but we'll also share that on the show when we're looking at the Match of the Week preview. I'll tell you every free game in case if you're somebody that is not looking to spend on the Apple TV or the MLS season pass type thing. I'll tell you what games you can watch for free if you just download the Apple TV app. All games this weekend, just download Apple TV. You don't have to buy the season pass yet. Download it on your Roku, your smart TV, your Fire Stick, your phone, and then have an Apple ID, and then you have access to every game that is this weekend, even if they're on Fox or FS1. No blackouts. We're done with that crap. So you're able to watch whatever game your heart desires. If you're a T-Mobile subscriber, reach out. They posted something about how you can now get the season pass for free if you have T-Mobile. So make sure your data plan applies for that. I do not have T-Mobile, so that's not an issue for me. But they did that for the baseball stuff too, T-Mobile. So pretty good deal. This is going to help get more people access to it. I think more people are going to start watching. And I can't wait to see how this shakes out. I'm going to hope to watch some of the Whip Around show. Hopefully that's archived as well for us to watch back, because if I am at the stadium,
that is interesting.
I would love to be able to just come home and turn it on, or Saturday or Sunday during the day, flip that on and be like, okay, how was this show? You know, was it good? What are things that can be worked on? Because Whip Around shows, I haven't been too impressed with previous MLS ones on ESPN and such, because I feel like sometimes they just end up hanging on one game more, you know? So I'm curious to see if they'll do that, or if they will really kind of hang more in the studio and then be like, hey, we just got like a Chris Hansen style. Hey, not Chris Hansen,
Scott Hansen.
Scott Hansen, yeah. Chris Hansen, you don't want
him.
You don't want Chris Hansen.
What are you doing here, little child?
Sir, who did you think you were meeting today at this MLS studio? But yes, so hopefully we have some more of that type stuff. Soccer's a little different than football, where you can't just be like, this team's in the red zone. But there's a lot of action in these games, so I'm sure they'll show us a lot more stuff than what the previous stuff did. This is Apple is dedicated to this, right? So I'm looking forward to it. But yeah, if you want to reach out to us at Stateside Show on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, email us statesideShow@gmail.com. Give us any sort of feedback that you have, whether about the show or about your experiences with the Apple TV products. Or if you go to a game, let us know your thoughts on how the stadium was. St. Louis fans, let us know how your first game goes. I know it's an away game, but I mean, like, you know, how pumped are you for that first game? It's got to be exciting. But yeah, thanks for listening or watching. Have a great rest of your week. We'll be back after the first official weekend of MLS action.